Deputy Chairman, sir, thank you for this opportunity to speak on the Apprentices Amendment Act.
Sit sometime and then decide. Okay.
So this is a key piece of legislation which has tremendous impact on our youth and their future. It can contribute tremendously to India's growth story in the coming decades. So in the backdrop of this bill, there are three major developments. One is our demographic change, where more than half the population is below 25. Another is the commitment of the UPA government to make manufacturing 25% of our GDP in the next 10 years, which is now, thankfully, being taken forward by the NDA government. And three, sir, we are in the midst of massive migration from rural to urban areas. We're in the midst of migration from farm to factory. So it would help if we try and think of this in human terms. Think of a young man who is leaving his village with dreams in his mind, in his heart, to go out and create a new future for himself. He wants to go to a city and get a job and start a new life. Where is that job going to come from? That job is going to come if we can work out arrangements with industry to create opportunities to learn while earning. So that is really the opportunity, and that is where apprenticeships come. Apprenticeships serve both the worker and the employer. It gives the worker a chance to learn while earning. It gives him a chance to gain professional training. It gives him a chance to get confidence, to get experience, and to essentially be able to get competitive, not just for that job, for other jobs as well. For employers, you see many times factories are talking about not having enough hands to come and join them. And this opportunity through apprenticeship gives us a chance, gives employers a chance to understand, to train somebody, to prepare them for more full-time work. So in that sense, this can create a win-win situation for both the apprentice as well as for the employer. So, along with this, we must think about how, as policymakers, we can scale this up. If you actually look at the potential of India, at the numbers that we have today, we are massive underachievers. A small state like Queensland in Australia has 350,000 employers offering apprenticeships. Sir, on the other hand, we have as a huge country, India has only 350,000 employers who are part of the apprenticeship scheme. So this is underachievement. We have to correct that. If we really get the proportion of Germany, which has apprenticeships, we will have millions and millions of jobs that are created for our youngsters. So, when training happens on the factory floor, youngsters get a chance to add to their strength, to their knowledge, to their capabilities. That is something that this act encourages, and I would urge that they fine-tune the implementation so that much more of this opportunity can be given to more people. But as you go forward, I would urge the government to think very carefully about implementations. First, think about the potential misuse of some of the features of this bill. This bill has come up with a very positive feature that an apprentice would not be given some small stipend, but would be given about 70% of the prevailing wage for a semi-skilled worker in that neighborhood. Now, that is a positive step. But if, sir, the sense of the house is that somebody is speaking, and until he finishes speaking, you should please keep quiet and listen.
Not that is not the sense of the house. Yeah. It seems so. It has been agreed that the bill has to be passed today.
Of the business today, fine. And it is allotted 2 hours. You have started. I suggest let discussion continue.
After he concludes.
After this you conclude, take it up tomorrow.
Problem. If you want to speak,
It's all right.
What can
If
we
you
do?
want to speak to
If you
her.
want to have really the welfare, you speak. Nobody is going to object. Please try to understand me. We have given some time to this black money issue. We have exceeded that. Nothing wrong because it's a public issue, important issue. We discussed it and the House sat. Now this is also listed in the business. After this, it has to go to Lok Sabha. Please understand the practical problems.
Amendments.
Please, not this one. The black money. There is a timetable set for both the houses. Please cooperate. You have nothing to lose. And moreover, my comrade friends, they are capable of sitting up to 11 o'clock in the night. Please.
Okay. Yes, continue. No, we shall make it. How much time you need more?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. I think we can go fast. We will conclude in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Mr. Gowda, please.
So, as you go forward with implementation, think about the potential problems. Guard against misuse. When you offer 70% pay to an apprentice, then there is a very good chance that the employer will sack full-time employees and put in more apprentices in their place. If that happens, that is counter to the spirit of this law, and it is not going to help create permanent employment. There are reports that I have seen where apprentices never get a permanent job. They are kept in a cycle of trainee, apprentice, contract labor, and then they never get a chance. The implementation authorities must make sure that this sort of misuse does not take place. So, along with that, I want to mention one other feature. That feature the UPA version had, which said that half the apprentices should be absorbed. Please, at least in the rules that you form, make sure that apprentices are not left hanging high and dry after all that effort that has gone in. So there's another issue that we need to pay attention to. That is, the UPA version of this bill had reservations for scheduled castes, for scheduled tribes, and for other backward classes. So this version of that bill does not have that reservation. Now think about what we're talking about. We are talking about entry-level jobs for poorest of the poor, unskilled labor. Is this not something that everyone should have access to?
Excuse me, please.
Is this
Please,
not
please.
something that the most disadvantaged sections of society should have access to? What is coming in the way of the NDA government introducing those reservations for Dalits and Adivasis and OBCs? Why have you not done that? Do you not have concern for these disadvantaged sections? Please, at least in the rules, make sure that at least these primary semi-skilled opening jobs are created and there's some element of inclusion. Let the government have a heart, sir. That is one of the key challenges that we need to implement in the formulation of this bill when it comes to implementation. So along with that, there is one other very good measure. This is that the government is going to shoulder 50% of the cost of apprenticeship for small-scale industries. This is something that is very welcome. Small-scale industries need help to add more people to their numbers, and this is something that is going to give them a chance to add to their numbers without additional cost. So, 90% of India's employment is in the informal sector. We are helping the small scale, that is very good, but why cannot you think about ways in which the same measure is passed on, is extended to the informal sector, to the unorganized sector, so that those who are left out also start to get the benefits of organized employment, the guarantees that workers have in the organized sector. So there's a larger philosophical issue that I would also like to bring. We should not think about apprenticeship as just a dead end. It is not a question of getting the first job and the last job. It is a question of a step onto a ladder, onto an escalator that will lead to a career in industry. We now are creating that first step. We are putting people onto that ladder, but we need to create an ecosystem of training institutions that will take these apprentices and give them training beyond what they get in a factory. We need to have training institutions launched by the government, encouraged in the private sector to ensure that workers get into the habit of continuous learning, that they get into the habit of investing in themselves so that they can create a new future. That is something that this bill has to be followed with. Further, as you go forward, Let us think about consultative processes. Many times we see in industrial relations in India and elsewhere a lot of confrontation. Here we have talked about a win-win situation. We have talked about employers benefiting. We have talked about apprentices benefiting. In this sort of a situation, we need to create more harmony within the industrial sector. The government must, as part of this implementation, continue to or introduce and escalate the consultations that take place between government, between industry, and with labor. So only when we do all that, only when we put all these measures in place, in addition to what is there in this bill, will we see this Apprentices Act really making a difference. Only then will we see this act creating openings for our youth. Only then will this apprenticeship really allow youngsters to achieve their dreams and unleash their potential. That said, sir, this is a bill that is in the right direction. It is a step that is going to create opportunities both for our manufacturing sector and our employers, as well as for our youth who are yearning for a break so that they too can build productive careers. I commend this bill to the House for passage.
Thank you, Mr. Gowda.